about Mifos X and Apache Fineract, and what does this mean and how will it work and things like that. As mentioned, don't hesitate to ask questions, right? If you see something or want to know a bit more about something, simply raise your hand and say. The presentation will have three parts. Part one is specifically why we are doing it and why we think it's necessary to do it, or what the benefit for all of us would be. The second part will be around Apache itself. Just a short overview of Apache, then a short explanation about the way of Apache and also roles within Apache. And the last one then will be where to go from here. So what does it mean for a user from Mifos? What does it mean for a developer? What kind of developers, and where we need to look in the future, and what are you need to do if you want to participate in both or in one of those, right? So that's the main thing that we'll cover part three. So let's get started with why we think this is useful. And the main thing is that we want to strengthen our community, right? And also try to achieve sustainability for us, right? So that we can stay long in the internet and long in the computer software business. So the important thing is that we won't change our mission, right? So we stay a 501c3, and everything that we will do is open source, and our mission, specifically fighting poverty, is also the same. We don't change anything here, right? We also will continue working on our own reference implementations. So in this case, the community application or the Android client are reference implementations that we will still maintain and develop. And we also will play a huge part in the next generation that we talked about the last few months over and over again. So making the platform and turning it into a framework. The main difference is that at the end of the day, there will be two communities, right? One is the Apache community, and this is led by the project management committee, and they are focusing around building the software, in this case, the backend services. And there will still be we as the community of Mifos. And this is still led by the Mifos Initiative. And we're simply focusing on our partners and users, helping them to grow and even become sustainable themselves. Another question that is asked often is the governance model. Do we need really a new governance model? The simple question is no, because we are already open and we are already transparent, and everything is governed in a really, really cool open source way. But what we need is some kind of a new governor, meaning that it should be easier for a developer to participate in our project, specifically if they're not working in the field on their own. So let's say there's not a partner who's using our platform or is implementing things on top of our platform, or a developer who simply want to volunteer sometimes because he's looking for an internship. It's more about the tech guys and those people that are interested in doing stuff, but looking for a more broader backing of their work. So in this case, Apache simply is the one-stop place where you usually go if you look for cool things that you could put on your Vita and really work on it, right? We think that once we're become a full-blown Apache project, this will have also an impact on our developers, specifically the tech-driven developers that we're needing more and more as we go down the line currently, right? So there are things like microservices. There are things like NoSQL databases and all that stuff, which needs to be built in a pretty architectural and designed way, and not simply by putting it in and hoping it works. And so we're hoping that we get more attraction from developers like that, and could focus on features and help you getting the features in place that you need on top of the new technologies that are hopefully will arise. So far, this would be the reasons why we're doing this. Is anybody having some questions so far about why we think it would help us?
I see no hands up. I think.
But I see,
Go ahead.
but I see your
Proceed.
chat. Okay, Patrick simply says, "Not from me." Okay.
Oh.
All right. So let's have a short look at the Apache Software Foundation. For most developers, I think the Apache Software Foundation is a name they know, right? And even if it's only because people are using maybe some products or projects that Apache is hosting, right? But there's a long history. So Apache has started in '95 by simply creating what's now called the Apache Web Server, and incorporated in '99. And it's also like we are a 501c3, so a real nonprofit. And in 2014, as you can see, right, they oversaw 350 projects, and 35 of them were podlings like we are currently. And they get an average of 2 new projects during a month. So, Patrick, could you simply state your question, and then we maybe could find a way to answer it?
Yeah, my question was more in relation with, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. My question is, I guess maybe you have to get to the point where people like myself, who is a tech support for other microfinances, will benefit in this new change. That is where I'm trying to grasp my mind with. I mean, from what you made mention of, is more in respect to how we move forward with development, which I think is great. But I don't know whether at a point we'll get to a situation where Mifos will be a proprietary software that needs to be purchased, or
No.
I don't know. I don't know where it's going to
No,
get
no,
to,
no, no,
because
no.
definitely it will get to the point where my clients will
Yeah,
be asking. Because
yeah,
basically we
but
do it for
yeah,
for them for free. I mean, trying to make sure that they have the right support, they have the right reports, and so I guess that's where I'm coming from.
yeah. So in this case, the answer is pretty simple, right? You will never need to purchase Mifos, right? Because Mifos will always stay free and open source software. Um, what will happen is that, and that's what we currently are doing, right? We're currently creating what we call a new distribution, because we now also need to use the code that we pushed over to Apache Fineract, because this is the new place where backend functionality will be implemented, and creating a new distribution, which is still called Mifos X. So you would still go to SourceForge, for example, and download it there, right? Or if you want, you can simply grab it from our code, fork it, and simply build it on your own if you like, right? And you will get this piece of software and the functionality we currently offer always for free. And if we do something on the community side, all these features will, as usually, stay free and open source. You will gain a bit more in the future when we start creating microservices instead of having everything running in one WAR file. Then you could really start increasing certain functionalities if needed, instead of deploying maybe a second Tomcat or adding more hardware and things like that. So in the future, you could simply say, oh, there's a lot of things going on the transaction side. So all you need to do is you need to set up a second transaction microservice instead of the whole WAR file again. So this is simply utilizing the hardware and also utilizing virtualization better than we currently do, right? And in addition, we will also, for transaction handling, because we know that the rate will get up in the future, given that everything is changing and turning around and becoming mobile, right? We also will include a NoSQL database, which will also come for free in this case for you. Right? So there is not really anything that changes from your side, because you would still get your distribution or your deployable artifacts from the Mifos side, and it will always be free and open source, and it will include the community application, and it will include the Android client. One thing that's a bit different now is that somebody else, right, could simply go over to Apache Fineract, use this as his base, and create a product out of it if he likes to. So right now he would need to go to Mifos and fork it from there, and then maybe he's not interested in our kind of microloans and micro savings. He maybe want to create a full-blown financial services, whatever kind of thing, right? And in this case, he would need to do a lot of code tweakings. And in the future, he could simply go over to Fineract, take the framework, and create his own solution that he then maybe sell to somebody or create his own business out of it, right? But for our community and our folks that are working with us since 7 years now, everything will be exactly as before. We are your entry point. If you have problems, you ping us. If you have any features that you're looking for that are needed, right, you ping us. And we take care about, is it more a Fineract thing, so we need to push it over to Fineract? That's something I will show later. And also, if you need some support, then you will come to us again. Right? So for you, it shouldn't be really a hard change. The only thing which is maybe good if you want to reach out to more larger institutions instead of the smallers, right? You could simply say that this project is now powered by Apache, which simply gives a better feeling than if you say it's powered by some weird geeks that are sitting somewhere around the world and maybe tomorrow they're not there anymore, right? So Apache will take care that the project also will live in 20 years or in 30 years or in 50 years. And this is one of the benefits you definitely gain.
All right, thank you very much. That's my
You're more than welcome. All right, so back to part 2, right? Currently, the ASF is a membership-based organization. So if you show enough engagement and you also give enough contributions, they invite you to become a member, and then you're really something like a hardcore Apache software guy. And currently they have 550 of those members. And the more interesting thing for us, at least, is that they have a total of 4,700 committers, and 1,600 are considered as really being around all the time. And at the end of the day, all projects see more than 16,000 commits per month. So once we're more in attention, because currently we're in incubation, this is some kind of a learning process for us, right? But once we're be a real top-level project, we also expect to raise more attention by others, because we already have a bunch of people that are looking at us, but right now simply waiting that we come out of podling and become a real project. I maybe see a question. Oh, thanks for joining. It's not a question. All right. So if you read about Apache and if you listen to a bunch of folks that are working with Apache projects, they all talk about the Apache Way. And it took us a while to understand what the Apache Way simply is. And that's the reason why we thought it's helpful to give you a broad overview what Apache means with its own way. So first of all, for Apache, the community is more important than code. So they care more about the engagement of the community, and they care more about how the community is growing instead of how the code is evolving over time. And the even more important thing is that Apache always talks about individuals. They're not talking about companies. So in our case, for example, we are part of the project management committee as individuals, not as a company, right? So Edward is part of it, I'm part of it, then we got Sander from Usoni, who's also part of the committee, then we got Vishwas from Conflux, and we also got some volunteers like Ishan Khanna or Gaurav Saini, who has done a lot of awesome work on the web client and the Android client, and they are all part of this committee. And they all have the same saying, so there's no, let's call it some kind of weight because you're part of a company or not, right? So everybody's equal in that case. And because of that, every newcomer is first of all welcome like before, right? But you can earn the merit to become more than just a volunteer, right? So if you show enough engagement or you provide some really decent contributions, then you usually become a committer, which is the next state. So you're allowed to do code changes directly instead of sending pull requests. And once you're also engaged in that process, you also could become a part of the management committee and simply play a role within the complete project if you want to. You always can say no for sure, but if you like to, this would be your possibility to simply jump in and give back more than before. So any questions about the Apache Way? Cool. So when we talk about Apache, there are two pretty important roles in the sense of governance. So the first and the most important thing is the ASF board itself. It's elected annual, but that's something you can read there. But it's more important that they allocate resources to their project. So they offer a complete infrastructure, a issue tracking tool, 2 types of wikis, SVN or GitHub repositories, and this is all offered by ASF itself, and it's also maintained by ASF. And the second, and for us more important thing, is the PMC, which is the Project Management Committee, because those are the people that drive a project. So at the end of the day, they look at the project, they maybe make strategic decisions and take care that the project is really lively and everything is in line with legal policies and things that Apache expects you to do. And we have another part of roles, which simply is the role an individual can take on in this complete process. And those rules are simply shown as I've showed them as a stair. It's not really a stair, but it's a way where you could go step by step through different roles in the Apache system. So the green ones are stuff that you can do immediately, right? You can become a user or a contributor immediately. There's no need for you to do anything except subscribing to the mailing lists and start contributing by documentations or feature requests or helping discussing feature requests and also contributing code and stuff like that. So if you show engagement, then the PMC could elect you to become a committer. So this simply means what it's written there, right? So you get write access to the code repository. So you can do changes directly in the code, and you are also reviewing code from others and also processing pull requests from others. If you're doing a pretty good job as a committer, then you could become a project management committee member, and now you're responsible also for community-related decisions. You vote on them, right? You propose new users to become committers, and you also elect your own PMC chair. And usually the PMC chair is an ASF member, and is the person who is interfacing with the ASF board. So we need to write some board reports in specific periods and things like that. So the ASF is reviewing if we're doing good, if it's healthy, or if we maybe start getting in trouble and how they could help us out by maybe adding more resources or finding another arrangement. And this is the way an individual can process within Apache. So you could start on the green part immediately, and once you show some traction, right, the usual step is to become a committer, and if you're doing even better, then you could become a PMC member. Any questions about your own possibilities as an individual within our Apache world now? Okay. So this is where we're currently at, right? So usually, this is where we're currently at, right? So, Uri, could you mute yourself so I'm not hearing myself 2 seconds later? Could you mute yourself so I'm not hearing myself? Okay, danke. This is the usual process you need to go from. You establish a connection until you become a top-level project. If you're a top-level project, everything is fine, right? And we became a candidate. We had a champion. So in this case, Ross Godler, the president of the Apache Software Foundation, were our champion, right? And we got accepted pretty fast. So it took us 7 days to be accepted as a incubation. And now we're in podling. So podling simply means we need to do some adjustments based on the license agreements, based on the libraries that we are used, because we now need to make sure that our used libraries and dependencies are in line with policies from the Apache Software Foundation. And then we need to create our first release, maybe our second release, under the umbrella of the ASF incubation, and also get new contributors and new committers onto the system. And this is some kind of a feedback loop, right, where we simply currently we send a monthly report in telling them how we are doing and what's going on currently. And once we reach that stage where the Apache Software Foundation thinks we're engaged enough, and this is usually driven by our mentors, and the mentors are 3 Apache software members that decided to help us go through that process, we can ask for a vote to become a top-level project. So I expect us to stay in the podling phase for another 60 or 90 days, and then we should be good. So we're currently working on our first release, right? So all licenses are already changed. We're now testing it so that we can make sure that everything is working out fine. And I guess we will call for the first release vote next week, maybe the week after that. So I would say 10 to 14 days, and then we should call for the first re-release at Fineract. And then we also need to get more contributors and more committers on our backend side so that they see the software is growing and also our community is growing, which shouldn't be a problem because we have a bunch of people developing on our platform in the backend, right? And so it should be pretty easy to get more people over them once we really have something to show. So if you have no questions about the current state and what we're doing and how things are going, right, I simply would go to the last point, which simply was titled where to go from here. So what does this mean for you and for us and for everybody else? And I think there should be a slide in front of that slide. Yes. So first of all, what's the difference? So Mifos X, div Apache Fineract, right? The Mifos Initiative will keep Mifos X for sure, right? Because this is our distribution. So this is our value-added microfinance distribution, and it's still obtained via the Mifos Initiative. And in addition to what Apache Fineract is offering, we will have the reporting in it, right? We also still provide and will provide for the long-term future the reference web application, in this case the community app, and also the mobile client, which is Android. Right? Those are things that you will get from Mifos, and those are the things that we will take care about. So the Apache Software Foundation and Fineract simply will do a source code release only, so you won't get a full-blown distribution. You can get the source code there, and then you can build your own solution on top of that source code. And it will become a general core banking system platform with no special feature set at the end of the day. And it's ready to be enhanced and customized by others. That's what I told Patrick before. Right? So Apache will give you the framework to build your core banking system and add additional features to it. And Mifos will give you a complete distribution for microfinance, including reporting and including everything that you currently know and you would like to have in the future, hopefully. So how could you engage in this kind of scenario? This is maybe one of the main questions, right? And this is, once again, two sides. So if you're a Mifos distribution user, which simply means you're a small MFI running it on your own, or you may be somebody like Patrick, right, who's taken our distribution and offering it to a bunch of people, helping them to host it and helping them to support it. Or if you're a web developer or mobile developer, then you should stay where you are right now, right? So the users list is your main entry point. If you have questions, go to that user list, send your questions. And if you're a developer, simply a web developer and a mobile developer, simply stay at our developer list. Ask your questions there, raise your concerns there, and we as the Mifos Initiative will take care about the issues and requests, which simply means we will answer you, and if we see that it's something that is related to Fineract, right, we will push it over to the Fineract list. This does not mean that you could not be part of the Fineract user list and Fineract developer list if you like to. But if you have something which is related to our distribution or to our reference applications, then it at least should be on our side, because Fineract on the other side doesn't know anything about it. So I think there was a question that I didn't hear.
Hey, Marcus, it's James. Yeah,
James.
On the previous slide. Good, good. Yeah, on the previous slide, there was the box of, advancing to the next phase. And I was wondering about whether that's been very clear, or, if you have clear directions and clear criteria, or is it something that's sort of a guidance thing?
It's a mix of both, right? So the expectation from Apache is that, first of all, you are able to release software. Right? This is one of the main goals in podling, is to show that you are able to release the software in this case. And this means you are in line with the license policies they currently have.
Yeah, slide 13. Yeah, okay.
Right, and on the other side, it's a bit of guidance too, right? So if they look at on two things. The one thing is, as I said, are you able to release software? And I think we're showed the past 7 years that we are able to release software, so this shouldn't be the hard task. And the other task is that they also want to see that the project is growing in the community sense, so that people are starting to engaging in the project. That's the second thing they see, and that's a bit the waggy part, because we never heard some kind of, let's say, okay, you need to have 3 additional contributors and 1 committer per month. Those are numbers we never heard, right? So it's simply, I think it's a feeling of our mentors to say, okay, this is a healthy project and we are good pushing them to top level.
Okay.
So there's not a hard number there, right? So releasing is pretty simple because you can measure it, but the other one is not really measurable. There's not really a rule where you say, this is how you show engagement.
Right. So then going to the next slide, since I have the floor here, where you have this split between the Fineract thing, which is the underlying platform, and then the Mifos thing, which there are a bunch of things going on. It seems like a lot of the value add work that the community is doing is actually on the Mifos Initiative side. So who do you imagine that's part of the current community could move over to the Fineract side of things?
So at the end of the day, everybody who is building out features on Fineract, right, would do that on Fineract. So for example, let's take Musoni, right? They're doing some additional things in the platform that they won't share because it's their business value add, right? This will happen. If they share it, then it will happen on the Fineract side. And it's the same for the framework thing that we talked about, right? So the goal is that we will make the platform a more generic core banking system so that there are features that could simply be made more in a broader sense than only microfinance. And this will happen over there too. And what we currently see is a little bit of interest in on the tech side, right? So there are a bunch of folks that are interested in supporting us on the technology part of it. And we hope to get more of them at the end of the day. So I would say currently 50 to 60% of our current backend developers could move over, and the rest would simply stay on our side.
Is it still useful to have the same people thinking about the long-term use of their Mifos platform give input on what the feature set should be in the platform, or is that going to be far too down in the technical weeds?
So we had a huge discussion internally about that, right? So my answer was pretty simple. If you know what you're talking about, so if you're more a techie guy and you know the difference between Mifos X and Apache Fineract, then you could go over and discuss your platform requirements at Fineract. If you're not sure where to go to, then stay on our side, and we will take care about spreading it out to the right, let's call it, the right receiver.
Hey, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. All right, so this also fitted a bit in the discussion about user lists and where to go to, right? So as I said, if you're knowing that it's really a platform thing, then you could go over to the Fineract list and start engaging there too. If you're not really sure, or you want to make sure that everything is in line, then you could simply stay on our side. Okay. So the last point for today on my side is where to post my issues. Issues in this case is simply a term for bugs, feature requests, little changes, enhancements, whatever you want to call them. Right? So as a distribution user or a web or mobile developer, you simply would create your issue still on our Mifos Jira. We internally will then sort it out, right? Maybe decide to create 2 tickets because we also need some backend functionality, and then we will push it over to Fineract. And the pushover will simply happen by a backlink. So you can see also the traction on Fineract if you want to. And if it's a completely in Mifos initiative, for example, you want to have some new report, right? That would be backend related, but it's a value add from our side, it will stay on our Jira. So we take care where it needs to land at the end of the day, if it needs to go over to the Fineract Jira or if it stays on our Jira. And if you're a backend developer, then go directly to your Fineract, new world of Fineract, and create your issue directly there. So I'm good. The next slide simply says thank you questions. So thank you. Are there any questions so far? Or you want to sleep over it and then send me some emails?
And just so you know, I have recorded this session, and I will be distributing the recording to everyone so you can share it and maybe revisit portions and shoot Marcus specific emails. Well, if there's nothing, I will close this session. I thank you all very much. There is one?
There's one more topic, right? I simply want to cover before we close it completely.
Okay.
As you may recall, we attended GSOC a few times the last few years, and we are also planning on attending it this year again. So the deadline is, I think the deadline is in a few days, so it's not that far away. I think it's 19th or something. And if you want to engage or share your thoughts with us, right, you could simply take a look at our wiki. And there's, first of all, an overview of the Google Summer of Code 2016, and also there's an ideas page, if you like to see what kind of ideas we currently have. There is one more point, and this is currently we try to sort out, because Apache will also attend GSOC, so some things maybe could happen on the Apache Fineract side. If it's more feasible for us than running it on our under umbrella, and we will for sure host the community application and web development things on our side for Google Summer of Code. So maybe we'll be there in two different spots, so partly for Apache and the other side will be for us, but at least we will do a Summer of Code on our side for the community application and for the Android application. That's all. So it's simply a heads up, Google Summer of Code is coming, right? If you want to know more, head over to our wiki, and you could search for GSOC 2016, and then you will find those pages. And I think we will also send out a few links by the end of this week so that you can participate a bit more. And we're also looking for mentors, right? So if somebody's interested in mentoring, simply jump up and shoot us a note, and then we could start discussing about mentoring and what you maybe could mentor and things like that.
Yeah, my audio is back now, Marcus, so everybody should be able to access the links to the current ideas page from the current thread on the developers list. And as Marcus said, you know, if you're interested in mentoring, put your hand up and let us know. And we'll set up another time to discuss our ideas and any questions about mentoring. So thanks, Marcus, for giving people the heads up.
You're welcome.
Marcus, this is James again. I hate to break in here with more on the same topic that I brought up earlier, but I think it might be useful to have like a description on the websites about, you know, who joins Fineract, who joins Mifos, who joins both, and how, for example, the Jira items might be in both places, or you might have a relationship between, you know, a feature request on one that flows through to a core banking system thing on the other side. I just think it would be useful to have some clarity and some good description on the site. Maybe you've already done this.
I'm already working on it, right? So some of that stuff that you saw on the presentation is already also becoming part of our wiki, so that you at least understand what's the difference and where to go to, right? So we're working currently on a hopefully helpful description on how to decide where you want to go.
All right.
I know it's a bit weird currently, the situation, because we're not fully announced, right? So as long as we're in incubation, we are not able to announce that we're now an Apache project. So we need to wait until we're in TLP. And so it's a thin line that we're currently crossing between telling at least our community there are some changes, but we could not make it a real big announcement, right? So we need to be a bit careful currently.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking more about, when you do communicate. I see your problem. You can't put it up on the website.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, just communicating it in emails, maybe on a regular basis, like make it part of the byline or something that's,
Yeah, so I think what we maybe can do is, and that's what I'm currently working on, is simply setting up a wiki page, because the wiki is not really open, right? It's not the place you hit first. And
Right.
I think it's fair enough to say, okay, we need to inform our community how they deal with certain issues or where they need to engage if they want to engage, right? But as I said, right now it's pretty hard to put it in front of the website, because then it would feel a bit like an announcement, and currently we're not in the position to do an announcement, right? So it's a bit like as I said, a thin line we just try not to cross too often.
Yeah, and that's fair. I guess, yeah, no, I think that's fair, and this is very exciting, and I just want to thank you again for the orientation. I, I do think there might be some issues that, around, people understanding, well, what is Mifos? Are they just a thin thing on top of Fineract? Are they something substantive on top of Fineract? Do they have their own code? Am I contributing to their code? Things of that nature might get a little bit confusing in this period. So I would just encourage you to try to make all that as clear as we can.
Yeah, that's what as I said, we're currently trying to write down in a way that's understandable, because at the end of the day, I'm a techie, right? So I need to be careful. choosing the right words and not making the people more confused than before.
Very good. Thanks again.
Welcome. So I'm good.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'll close the session, and everyone have a good evening, good day, and in a month's time, we'll reconvene. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye. Have a good one.